Welcome to another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review. I'm Steve Gamache, and what we're looking at this time is the Shun Kanso series. They're Santoku, 5.5 inches or about 140 millimeter knife. And this line of knives has it's really not even a core steel, it is a monosteel knife, so it's solid AUS 10A stainless steel, fully stainless steel. This is kind of an upgraded version of the AUS 8A, which is used in a lot of kitchen knives, including the Fujiwara FKM series, so it's a proven steel. The heat treat's about 60 Rockwell on that, so they've got a little bit of hardness to it for some increased edge retention. And again, the construction is monosteel. It's a solid piece of AUS 10A. There's no cladding or layers on it. The weight on this is about 4.7 ounces, 133 grams. Edge length, again, about 5.6 inches, pretty close to the 5.5 advertised length. That's from the tip to the chin, about 142 millimeter. Overall length, about 10.6 inches for the entire knife. And the spine thickness, this knife has a pretty stout, substantial feel. So it's about 2.5 millimeters, and which isn't super thick, but it holds that almost all the way through till you hit the very part of the grind at the tip. And so this blade is stiff and pretty stout feeling. The blade height is 43.6 at the back of the blade from spine to edge. And the handle, this wood they call, probably get that wrong, but Tagayasan wood, I've looked it up and it's got a number of names, including Bombay Blackwood. So it's known by a number of names, but it's basically a hard, dense wood that's pretty well suited to handle use. And let's take a close-up look at the knife. These are pretty cool. They've got an outdoor knife kind of aesthetic to them and feel. The whole vibe kind of screams outdoor. Part of that is the finish. They put a tumbled or stonewash type finish on these, just like a lot of outdoor knives. And that's going to give you great concealment of scratches and scuff marks, so it's really going to increase the durability of the finish. And they've also got slab handles on here that are screwed and glued. So again, another outdoorish type of look to it. You've got screened on Shun logo on the right side of the blade, and you've got the logo plus information about the steel and the model number on the left side of the blade. And you also have these hollows or scallops or dimples, whatever you like to call them, and they are there to promote food release. And on this particular knife, they work. I've compared this to the 8-inch chef's knife, and the food release on this really is quite good compared to that. So these dimples are doing their job. So the food release is quite good. They've got a little bit of a gap there between the edge and the dimple, so you should get quite a bit of life out of this knife if you treat it right and don't have to sharpen it too much if you get edge damage and stuff, to get a lot of life out of this knife before you start hitting those dimples and where it can kind of interfere with the edge geometry itself. But they are actually very effective on this knife. The finish is really nicely done. You've got polished spine, choil, kind of an interesting curve to the back of the blade, the choil into the handle. The handle themselves, they've got a pretty good texture to the finish on the wood for a lot of grip, and a little bit of a kind of a bolster effect with the slimming down at the front of the handle slabs. So it's a real comfortable knife to pinch grip, or you can do a variety of grips to this knife and it'll accommodate that quite readily. Interesting shape. You've even got a back part where I guess you could hang it or put something on there. Lanyard, again, a la outdoor knife. It's kind of interesting, but full tang. Balance point on this is going to be kind of right about there, so kind of a fairly neutral balance point. Let's look at it on the cutting board. The edge on this was really quite good. It was quite sharp and had some tooth or bite to it. I'll give it a good 5, maybe 6 out of 10. So this had a pretty nicely ground edge on it. And here's the profile. It's curvy. This is not a flat knife. So if you want to do some slicing with it, you'll have to kind of follow the curve of the blade. It rocks really well, but it doesn't get very high. You can see I've got a very low tip on this and not a lot of belly towards the tip. So I'm not going to rock with this much. I mean, I'm digging in way down there. You can do short stuff like scallions and chives and that kind of stuff, but you're not going to do much tall with this. And a different knife could have a slightly different profile. This kind of almost has a little bit of a kind of a hook down at the end there. Now, aside from that, I was probably most impressed with this knife out of the three. It's my favorite knife out of the three. And the reason is, even though it's kind of thick and stiff and stout, not super thin behind the edge, it actually is a pretty good performing knife. It surprised me quite a bit. No, it's not a laser by any means, but it goes through product quite well, and I was pretty impressed with it. It's actually a pretty impressive little knife to use. It's stout, it's solid feeling, and so a lot of people like shorter knives like this lengthwise, and it's got some height to it. So if you've known people that don't like longer knives, that just hang out on paring knives all the time or shorter stuff, this might be a good option for them. And again, the performance is really quite respectable, I thought, going through product, soft and hard product. So pretty impressed. I'm going to ask Mark to get the 7-inch version of this in and see what that'll do. But again, pretty cool knife. I was quite impressed with it. And the finish is just an added bonus, so that should really hide scuffs and scratches over time quite well. So interesting lineup. So this is the Shun Kanso Santoku 5.5 inch or 140 millimeter knife.